Hey, welcome back, folks. If you are seeing me for the first time, my name is Nick Kleitch. I'm the creator of the Life with Nick YouTube channel and the host of the Life with Nick podcast. Do me a favor and head on over to my channel to check out my introduction video. I do that for a couple purposes. First off, if you want to know who I am and why I created my channel, that'd be a great way to do so. Secondarily, it's just going to give you a layout of what I got going on here so you know what the heck I'm doing and if I am for you or not. And I say that because I want to be mindful of your time and mine, because I'm really trying to build a tribe of people that subscribe to the personal development world. I believe in it. I think everyone should engage in it. And so if that's worth your time and you're kind of curious and you're like, oh, maybe this guy's approach is unique, would love for you to subscribe. And if not, again, I'm not here to sell you as to why you need to do it. I do believe it is a very, very positive thing, but that decision will be yours at the end of the day. So head on over there. And then for those who have been sticking around and knowing kind of the rhythm of the coaching concepts that we're working on, we are going to continue with Emotional Agility by Susan David. We have been discussing behaviors that we use to deflect negative feelings because we don't like negative feelings, even though they serve a purpose in our lives. So finally, before I kind of get into things here, sorry I'm jumping around a lot. If you don't want to go over to the introduction video, stick around here for a couple minutes and see if what I'm talking about is appealing to you in any way. You're more than happy to join us in this video. So we've talked about bottling, we've talked about brooding, we've talked about behavior, we've talked about purpose in all emotions. We conclude with this coaching concept called Are You Drunk on Happiness? One of my personal favorites. And so the reason it is labeled that way, it is not from the book, it is my own personal iteration, is because we have laid the groundwork on what our deflecting behaviors are, but there's still one thing that we like to do to avoid negative feelings. And I feel like I've done this a lot in my life. And so when I was reading about this, I was like, oh, how do we use this and give it a little bit more of a personal touch? And I'm sure I'm not the only one. So basically, outside of these coping behaviors that we have, bottling and brewing, there's one more kind of misconception that I think society throws out on us. And that is kind of being groomed to always put on a fake face and a smile, right? Smile your way through difficult emotions. Have fun. Why aren't you thinking more positively? All these things to just basically say, just happiness is the answer, right? And there's a couple different books that have kind of opened my eyes to why that is not the best strategy. This was another point of reiteration, but that happiness word is such a buzzword, right? Like we all want to be happy, right? We all want to be in positivity. Well, you can't just fake your way through life in terms of being happy all the time. And I say that because life is part negative. That is part of the reality in which we were born into. But also, if you're never negative and you never take the time to learn why and the purpose of these negative emotions, you will not learn the valuable lessons that they have to teach you. Take, for example, if you're in a sporting event and you lose a close game, right? You can't just smile your way through it and say, oh, that was something that happened and like I'm over it now. No, there's feelings that come with that loss that will teach you why you would not want to do that in the future. So if you're someone like myself who kind of was around people in life that just, kind of smiled their way to deflect negative emotions or just didn't spend a lot of time there, this probably is for you to pay any attention to. So happiness or trying to fake happiness might not be a good strategy as we originally thought. Striving for happiness, okay, that is different than working on being optimistic as a human being. And I put this distinction in here because I think it is important. So we can strive to be happy, but happiness comes from the work that we put into projects that we're working on, activities that we do. Nothing that we go out and do does not require no energy and effort, right? We put energy and effort into things that we enjoy doing because we enjoy doing them. And so as we kind of distinct that away from optimism, right? Optimism is just kind of having an inherent attitude that life will eventually work out in your favor. We're going to be optimistic to outcomes that we can make improvements in certain areas, right? Happiness is a state. Optimism is more of a mindset and a cultivation that you can really put forth. So that's why I put that in there. It's certainly more helpful to be optimistic and to leverage happiness to drive towards success, meaning that You can be optimistic, which creates happiness, which can help drive you towards success. But that super negative and just putting on a be happy is not a sustainable and healthy way, as I was kind of mentioning earlier. So it's like you're going through some tough times and people are like, hey, why don't you just be grateful? Or why don't you just be happy? Or just, it's not that bad. All those have good intentions, right? But we have to, again, acknowledge that sometimes we need to just to face that negative emotion head on and not be happy and kind of learn, oh, why am I frustrated? Why am I pissed off here? Why am I sad? Why am I depressed? Why do I have anxiety? And so that is why we can't just simply be happy our way through life. In the same light, too much of a good thing turns out to be a bad thing, right? Too much of any one good thing has the consequence of a bad thing. And in the case of happiness, opening ourselves up to negative emotions can be actually much more beneficial. So revisiting that negative emotion for a moment, we've talked a lot about that in the last couple concept coaching models, but basically they get a lot of bad reputation. And I will be honest, I was one until I started kind of diving into this as to, hey, we just got to be more positive out there. And it's like, well, negative emotions, they do have a purpose, right? They do have a usage. And so I put a question in here that said, what if we altered from the term negative emotion to useful emotion, right? So positive emotions, it's easy to be like, yeah, we're positive. This is awesome. This is joyful. What if we reframe that negative emotion to, hey, I'm feeling frustrated right now. What is the use of me being frustrated? Why am I frustrated, right? Asking those questions helps you think and process why that is the case. Let's take anger, for example. We've all been angry. We've all been really angry at some point. And it's interesting because when we're angry, we're super intense and we're incredibly focused on why we're angry. And that could lead to wanting to take revenge or wanting to defeat somebody, or there's a whole gamut of things. But it's interesting how focused you get when you are super angry. And so if we were to just smile our way through it, we wouldn't use the usefulness of anger and that drive to be able to get the result that we want, right? So our negative emotions help us kind of slow things down and process what is going on. They summon more like attention and thinking styles and kind of coming at things in a new, unique way. And so when we're faced with adversity and tough times, and we really want to dig into those moments, again, to learn those lessons, and that's what it's all about, right? If you are having a situation with a significant other and you're just upset by something, if you deflect, right? If you bottle or brood or just be happy, you never grow together. That adversity and that friction causes perspective and growth. That's what we're all about. Okay, I know I've mentioned this and it might be slightly redundant, but in terms of our raw feelings, our raw emotions, whether positive or negative, they're messengers that need to teach us something about our situation or about life. So like if we do something really well and we have a lot of positive emotions around that, wouldn't we want to know why why that feels so good, right? And then the same thing with the negative, okay? If it makes us feel like shit, why does it make us feel like shit? Why does it cause anger? Why does it cause envy? These are the real core questions that when we get to understand ourselves and our triggers and why things bother us, we can just move forward a little bit more in life. And that's the part of the emotional personal development piece, is we're going to accept and find purpose in all of these spectrums of emotions and not just happy our way through life. Okay? So again, just to really kind of drive this point home, anger, sadness, fear, disgust, leveraging pain and negative emotions can help direct us to where we want to be. They're teachers, right? Building on this notion of being open to negative emotions, the reality of happiness is also something that we should discuss. So striving to just be happy in some ways sets a precedent of that there should be something that we do to get to happiness, right? This is where I mentioned earlier that it's more of a state. Your happiness is a state that can be achieved through effort and output on things that we want to engage in. And so when we don't meet the expectations of just being happy, we can become disappointed in ourselves. And we're kind of back to square one on what this negative emotion is trying to teach us, okay? So real happiness, this is a little bit from the book, but also my own input, comes through the effort and the intensity specifically applied to the goal that you have in mind, right? So if you put in work to your marriage, if you put in work to your relationships, if you put in work to your career, and that allows you to make a stride, that is exactly what we're talking about here, right? Not necessarily just saying, oh, we'll just be happy right now. We'll just be happy. That doesn't help us engage in the lesson being learned. It doesn't help us engage in that direction that those raw emotions are trying to kind of direct us towards. Okay. The last kind of point here. So it's normal to feel negative some of the time. Life is part negative. And let's be okay, and let's be open to our negative emotion. What signal are they trying to provide us? What is the trigger? Happiness is great. There's no doubt about it. We've all been really happy, just completely just in love with happiness and joy, and that is awesome. But if we just use that to deflect things off or to bury things down, it does not serve us. To be fully alive is to become aware of all of our emotions, to learn, to understand, and develop the skills to leverage all of these emotions. To be emotionally agile is really what we're talking about here. So hopefully you guys have taken away a lot of positives in the last couple coaching concept videos. We're really drilling into how we deflect, and these are 3 really big things. So I hope that provided value. The next piece of this kind of direction that we're on here with this book read is we're going to get into more of the action items to overcome when we are super hooked in. Okay, and the first one is showing up, I believe. Let me check really quick, but I want to make sure I get that right. Yep. Showing up. So we're going to get into the process of what was mentioned in the earlier part of the book, which is going to be super exciting. So let's hopefully enjoy the video, and let's keep moving.